Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us here. This is actually my first time in Clovis, New Mexico, and I've lived here my entire life. So thank you for having us. I'm so glad that you're all out here to support and support my little adventure that I decided to go on. So my name is Faith Gallardo. I currently live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a property manager, so I manage apartments in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So I decided to team up with two other people to do these events. So we decided to call it the Great Debate. My two other team members is David Dominguez, and he is a Republican, and then I have Sandra Casaus, and she is a Democrat. And kind of the way this all started was they said, mine's the best, mine's the best, mine's the best. I am a registered libertarian, and so I said, okay, let's challenge it. You bring yours to the table, I'll bring mine to the table. And so that is how we started this, the Great Debate, and I have invited the other two candidates. So we have Mark Ronchetti for the Republican Party, and then we have the Democrat, which would be Michelle Lujan Grisham, who is the current governor, and then we have the Libertarian, which is Karen Bedonie. And so I'm happy that so far I'm winning. Thank you, Karen. So this has been quite a journey for me. Before this, I was not much into politics. I didn't know much about it, and decided that after the pandemic had happened, or when it was happening, it was important to be involved, and that's why I got involved. And throughout the last 2.5 years, I've been learning more and just trying to stay on top of it. And it was important to me to have this series of events so that we could hear your voice. I'm just a person who takes care of my community. As a property manager, I always think of the residents first. And so because of that, I decided, why not? Why don't we ask New Mexico, what do they want? Let's hear them. The media often doesn't ask the questions that are important to us. So that's why we're here today. And so we do have a few questions, and I would like to introduce right now Karen Bedonie. Thank you. Alrighty, thank you. So we did get a couple questions. You can sit right there, Karen. I'll come over to the side. So we do have a few questions that came in, but I'm going to start with one. So I'm going to start with this gentleman. If you could introduce yourself and then your question.
My name is Wade Fraze. Oh, up here? Okay, yeah, sorry. My name is Wade Fraze. I'm a girls basketball coach and history teacher at Portales High School. And my question is, the New Mexico economy is in shambles. There are only 2 states, Mississippi, Louisiana, below New Mexico in poverty. Why is this? And what would you do to improve our situation that is different from your opponents?
Thank you, and good to meet you. Our economy is in the toilet, and I'm the first one to tell you that as a businesswoman. Also as a mother of 8, when I moved home to raise my family here in New Mexico, there's no jobs. I had to create my own, and I learned how to build a business from nothing. And I think that's where it is the fact that we are so heavily dependent on the social programs in New Mexico. They keep throwing money at it. It's so easy to sit on the couch as opposed to go get a job. And after the 2020 pandemic hit, it became even more apparent that they were issuing policy that was going to impact our workforce. And right now our workforce is crippled. We cannot get them off the couch and we cannot get them employed. Then they inflated the minimum wage. And so small businesses like myself couldn't hire. You can't even afford it. Then July, I think it was 1st of this year, they kicked in the new health standards where we have to provide health insurance from day 1 for any and all employees, and they could call in sick the second day they're hired. And we couldn't afford that. And so right now, my husband, we have downsized our companies. We lost 3 businesses after the 4 we built over our course of our lives. And we are hanging on to 1. And right now we employ 0, just our children, because that's the only way we can make it through this economy. It's horrible. And I can tell you this, that when I taste the actual independence and the freedom of making your own money, it's a very astounding marker of becoming an American through and through. When I became a business owner, we were able to put shoes on our children's feet because they were all cross-country runners. So growing up, the little kids, I had 8 of them, homeschooling all of them, and we funded the homeschool ourselves. And so we had to have essentially a shoe store in my house because I had to have every size for every sport we did, from wrestling to cross country. So I had a shoe store in my house. And every time a kid grew, we'd move to the next size and we'd shelve the pair that they were wearing. And it was poverty, is what I was fighting. Socialistic and communistic driven government poverty. And it's hard to break once you're indoctrinated into it and you get a taste of it and you feel that laziness creep into your children, then you realize that you are fighting a system. It's a very difficult system. And we are in the poverty line because it's by design. It's engineered that way. I come from Indian country, and on the reservation, socialism is rampant. Everyone depends on the government for something. And I have worked very hard to become absolutely independent, and also I wanted to know what freedom tasted like again, to raise my family, to cook the food that we purchased and we bought or we raised, one of the two. And so what the economy we're going to do is we're going to try to ignite that again. When you give someone who's been in poverty a taste of freedom, it's very powerful. There was a mechanic, as an example. He was fixing cars and he wanted so bad to open his own shop. It was his American dream. The American dream right now is also being taken away from the youth. He had an American dream, and he says, how do you do it, Karen? So I said, I figured out a way. You have to make it through the cracks of the system or you won't make it. There's a gap, they call it, between being successful and being, I guess, living off the government. It's a small gap, and then they expect you when you start your business, you can afford all these things, your own medical, everything. You're supposed to be wealthy because you own a business, and that's the illusion of it. But that crack isn't small. It's the Grand Canyon. It's huge. And you can't fill that gap no matter how hard you work. And if you're a business owner in this room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we have to be able to squeeze that gap where it's easier to make a bridge. And so on the economy that I'm talking about, I want to move people from the first tier, that's the poverty-stricken tier. It's ballooning and it's big, and they need us to be poor and dependent. That's how the elite survive. We are the product of a government that's elite. Then there's a second tier. That's where we are, the business owners, the ranchers, the cattle people. We are trying our best to provide for our families. We're all trying to get to the third tier where we can have generational wealth. We can hand it down generations. That's where we want to go. And in these markers that I've developed and found out that the first tier is very difficult to jump, and why would you? When you have everything, you have food stamps. You can buy lobster on food stamps, I always say. You can buy Starbucks. You can buy Monsters, you can buy anything, and it's comfortable for them. So how do we move this people from the first tier to the second tier and balloon our economy? It's through freedom of entrepreneurship and small business. Now, I want to be able to provide and squeeze the first tier. It's going to be difficult to have food stamps on my program as governor. I don't want you to have lobster because you didn't work for it. I don't want you to have filet mignon because you didn't work for it. I think that we need to squeeze it. On my program, you can't even get sliced bread. I will give you a cookbook, and I will give you all the ingredients, and you're going to learn how to make that bread. And it's going to be very uncomfortable for the ones that were lazy, the ones that like McDonald's, the ones that are able to work, and you're going to watch them jump. We're going to push our money to the second tier to incentivize. I believe if we get our unemployment from 11 to 14% of our total population and make it easy for you to start your business without all the red tape, then we all hire 1 to 2 New Mexicans. I believe we could wipe out our unemployment rate. I also believe we can start to build a second tier that actually builds America, and that is where America thrives. And that's my dream. So I know the economy, what it must do. We also need a little bit of a helping hand to get this done. So oil and gas is part of our resources, the big part of it, the package. Right now, Michelle Lujan Grisham, when she started, she blew through all of our resources and whatever Martinez had saved up. She ran right through it, and what happens? We're broke. We're in the red. So you think about it, well, how do you pull money? How do you pull more government money? You create crisis. You have a border crisis, then we had the fires go on. Then you saw the federal government promise to bring us relief. They're trying to bring in dollars. Then during COVID, she was flying in people, Native Americans, my people, in helicopters to New Mexico. But wait a minute, we were trying to keep the virus out. They were bringing him here because they had the highest medical payout in Arizona. So if they were poor and they were on their Medicaid, which is called, I forget what Arizona's is called, but when they flew them this way, they were actually worth more. So she was pulling money in from the Arizona Medical, and we saw that. So we're not gonna pull and push red money, restricted money. We're gonna ignite green money. Green money is free money. Now the only way to flip government money from red to green is through small business. We are the saviors of our economy. Once they cut that invoice, the money's free to the people. You employ people, you hire, you produce more product, you move more, you use more oil and gas, you start to see what happens. The gross receipt tax also needs to be wiped out. It's so hard to be New Mexicans and build a business or franchise and bring a business here that you want to run. It's your American dream. So me as your governor, I want you to chase that American dream. I want it to be easy, so easy that people will move here from other states. But we must be careful that they don't bring their liberal leftist minds here, because we have to make sure that we also protect our traditional way of life. The Western way of life is very important to us. So the conservative notion of this, it's going to ignite the economy, is also tied directly to education. Without the economy, we have no education. We have no law enforcement to fight drugs and all the different crimes and things that were happening. Everything is connected. It's one big spider web. And when you hit the spider web with impact, the whole thing moves. So you have to work simultaneously to cover all of it. And we have a plan for that. But that's what's happening with the economy, is it's engineered that way. We are supposed to be poor because New Mexico is the next big reservation. And that's why I'm standing here. I'm fighting it. Because every policy they're instituting here in New Mexico already happened to my people and on the reservation. It hurts. The oppression and suppression that has driven you here to listen to me, that's what you're feeling, and it's real. And it's coming faster than I thought. I didn't think they were going to do it this quickly. But after the raid on President Trump's house, they tested, are we quiet enough to sit there and let them violate the Constitution? The 14th Amendment, the 4th Amendment were completely decimated the past few weeks, and we did nothing. We did nothing. They're testing us. You are now good little Indians. It's coming fast, and I'm the only one that can stop it, and the only one that's actually courageous enough to say it, that they're wrong, and the FBI needs to be sued and needs to be dismantled. But that's my answer to your economic question. It's a big question, but that's what I got now.
I want to encourage anyone who's in here right now, if you have social media, to go live on your Facebook or Instagram, whatever you have, if you would like to participate in that. It actually helps my feed, and I'm sure it helps Karen's feed to just kind of pick up on traffic there. So if you do have it, I encourage you to do that now. And I believe you had one more question, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So he's going to get one more question. Okay.
I wasn't prepared to ask the second one, but I guess I am. I have it here. So I am an educator. This is my 30th year as a public school teacher in Texas and New Mexico. And this question has to deal with education. Out of all 50 states, 50, New Mexico ranks 51st, counting the District of Columbia, in education. Why is this, and what would you do to improve our situation that is different from your opponents?
Thank you. Well, I think actually Guam was beating us, the last I heard, because the actual territories are now, they're gaining on us. And MLG is now telling everyone that we are 49th. We moved up one step, which we don't believe her, because nothing has changed. Nothing has, actually come forth. Education is a big part of our platform, because I'm a homeschool mom. I homeschooled 8 of them. When I went to school in boarding school. I'm a product of the Bureau of Indian Education. Bureau of Indian Affairs is when it was when I was younger. Everything I wore, everything I knew was government issued, and I know there's a better way. But we had good teachers, not all of them, but the good ones. They taught us real history, and we were allowed to free think. And it was when we went to college, that's when it was an abrupt hit, because we fought it. I fought it mentally. I think it started in the education second. When you move up to the secondary education, it became apparent to me, and I saw it, they started to question, are you really a female? How do you know? And I knew it. And they asked questions, well, you're Native Americans and they make you feel bad. You know, they came across this land, they stole your land, and you should feel bad and you should be angry. They started to pump this inside college, and I knew that it was indoctrination. And so our education right now is filtering down, and MLG's policies are going all the way to infancy. They want you to put your babies in daycare. They want total control of your children. And this is the marker that we talk about with Indian country. When they moved our people across the land, the first thing they did was burn our fields, and that's when we talk about the Green New Deal, the 30 by 30, and maybe those questions will come up today. And those markers, you start seeing the Second Amendment, when they figured it out, how do you disarm and completely conquer people, as you remove their weapons. That's what the Second Amendment is being challenged right now. But the third one was also medical. They never let you have your medical. And the fourth marker is what the marker you're talking about is education. They never let us have our education. They made us believe that the state and the government knew better. But for thousands of years, we've been educating our children ourselves. I believe that we need to have control of our children's education, and the people that are serving on the board and also parents need to have absolute access. We saw during 2020 and when CRT came down the pipeline how they pushed out the parents, even criminalized some of the parents that stood up and said this is wrong. I knew what was happening, and I saw it way before. That's why I pulled my kids out of school. I tell a story about my son. He brought home an application. It was like some kind of I forget what kind of class it was, but I thought they were teaching him how to fill out a business or a job application. And I was looking at it closer, and it was a food stamp application. And they were teaching them how to get on the government quickly. They also teach our children that it's okay to get pregnant in high school. We'll help you. And if you get pregnant, that's okay. We'll teach you how to get on the system. And so it changed, and I think that we're seeing a big push of our education is completely corrupt. I think the PED is too powerful. They're not just advising, they're now controlling. The Secretary of Public Education during COVID wasn't even here. They were from another state. And so when we were on lockdown, that supervisor was gone. So we watched our education completely falter, and it did not serve our children. So the education part of this package, we've been talking with other people who are very worried about this. How do you fund it? Because we've given so much power to the state through our taxation, and they're the ones that tell us how to do it. And they say, well, we're not going to give you your money until you mask every child and make sure they're vaxxed. So the school board can't do anything, because if you don't have money, then you don't have a school. So they're in a very sticky situation between a rock and a hard place. You need to re-empower the parents. How do you do that? So we're looking at taxation, exemption, or else even credits. An $8,000 credit's what we're looking at. People think it's kind of weird, but when you think about it, you have $8,000 per child, and you decide where it goes. Public school, private school, hybrid schools, homeschool, whatever you want. Now, the indoctrination is you have to have a 2-parent income for you to have a successful household. If you stay at home, it's like, oh, you stay at home, you're a stay-at-home mom. I got that all the time. Oh, you can't make it, so you're gonna stay home and take care of your kids because you just have too many. Or you made the wrong decisions and had too many kids. Those are the misconceptions they put out there. And so when you have children, let's say you have 8 in the house like I did, out of 8,000, I would have had over $64,000 to spend on my education how I saw fit. I could have sent them to public school, private school, or bought the computers that we needed. We never had computers in my house because we couldn't afford it. And when you think about it, wow, you empower it. So if a school system realizes that if I upset this parent and they remove their child, then we have to prorate them back out, and we lose money, and you start seeing them shape up pretty fast. You put the power directly to the hands of the people. And PED has no say-so. PED is only going to advise the school system, well, you can do that, but if you upset the parents, they're going to remove their children. So you're going to start seeing school districts shrink that are corrupt, that are not there helping you, that are pushing the leftist ideas, when they're pushing CRT and other crazy cross-dressing and drag queens inside libraries and these types of things. You can actually remove your child and take your money with you. That's the New Mexico I see to empower you. And this came up from an actual lady who's a PhD. She wrote this plan, and she's had it for a very long time, and no one's talked to her. She's not a PhD in education, she's a PhD in economics. And she says this will work perfectly, especially with all the legislation out there. So she wrote this plan, and we're going to carry it. I read it, and I asked her many questions, and she was able to tell me. It's a good plan. It'll work because it'll empower the parents directly. And you'll see the school board start changing, and you'll see them start to empower them where do they want to put that money. So if you have a football player that's going to play college because he's a big kid and he's good, you're going to send him to the school you want, because I want you to have school choice. I want him to have the best American shot at his dream. The American dream is my underlying, I guess, theme, and I really believe in it. And I think the American dream needs to be, really loved again, because we're not even doing that. We're removing it from these kids. Now, also, if you're a business owner, let's say you're a welding and you have a welding shop and you have a kid that wants to become a welder, wants to go do this, I think that you should be able to provide those credits for that child and have them work for you and come into your business. It used to be that way when you were 14, 15, 16, you could go work. I was a welder. My grandfather taught me, so did my dad. It was because I was allowed to hang from the rafters upside down and work. And I was, doing commercial buildings when I was in my 20s. And I think that needs to be reignited again, especially people who are in businesses that have family business, cattle. These kids are wasting their time in the school system that tells them to sit still, be quiet. I'm right, you're wrong, and you're on a hamster wheel. You learn how to clock in and clock out. That's what the school system was created for. It was created to build good kids, I guess, for a good society. But our society has now changed. We need vocation. We need tons of vocation, because right now we have kids out there that can't do a lot. Their motor skills are fine, and gross motor skills are not developed. We're seeing it because we can't even hire. I hired in our flower shop, the valedictorian. He couldn't even sweep. He couldn't even answer the phone. He couldn't even write an order, a ticket. And my little Abby over there was 14 years old, and she came up to me and she says, "Mom, we gotta fire this guy. We're wasting money." She's like, I can pull the weight. We don't need to hire anyone else. But you see that they start understanding, and then you make them start paying bills, then they understand financials, and you start building great Americans again. So that's what we're looking at, is an education system that works for you in your district. Because a blanket policy is not gonna work here the way it's gonna work in Albuquerque. You are a different people. You even speak differently. Your accents are different. So how do they expect their education plan from up there to work down here? I want you to have control, and I want you to be able to build these students and these people of New Mexico so they can be great New Mexicans, and also empower them when they go into secondary. That's another animal I want to tackle, because I don't even know what happened to our secondary education. It's all liberal left. And when you think about it, our regents, they're not doing anyone any favors. We're gonna have to reappoint conservatives, and we have to build vocations and things that actually apply to in Mexico. But that's my answer, and I hope I covered everything. But yeah, so education is a big bubble, but it's important to us, and we have a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of moms are working with us on this plan, and it's a good plan. I believe it's gonna work. But that's my answer. Thank you.